What's up, fam? Hope you are doing fantastic out there. Today we are taking a look at a brand new Vosteed. So if you guys see the smiley faces here, you know what we're looking at. This is the newest Vanchor, and that is the Corgi V295. Taking a look at the dark blue and S35 VN variant with the aluminum scales. This is a awesome offering from Vosteed. You guys know I've been a huge fan of Vosteed since the very beginning. Absolutely love UA and the team. I look forward to seeing them every year at Blade Show. Just absolutely awesome people, and just really do enjoy what they've been doing. Yeah, I've been kind of revolving my collection a little bit, so there's a lot of things that have went the wayside. But of all of the Vanchor models, this is the only one I currently have. Well, the Corgi V is the only one I currently have, which says a lot because I wasn't always the biggest Corgi fan. So I really do enjoy the kind of the flipper wheel, the lighter wheel style on this flipper. It's really fun, fidgety. I love the screwless show side. Gives it a really clean look. Just fun knife. Priced right as well, especially for the materials and what you're getting. Have no issues with that. So let's go ahead and jump into this knife. So again, this is the Corgi V295, which, if you kind of guessed, blade length is 2.95 inches. Overall length, you're looking at 7 inches, so just shy of what I consider a perfect length. And then you're only 3 1/4 ounces, so not too bad considering you have a pretty decent thickness here of aluminum with that Vanchor lock mechanism in there. A Vanchor lock mechanism does add some weight because we are looking at a pretty substantial steel lock bar in there. That's a definitely a weight adder. Now there's two different versions of this knife. There's the aluminum version, and then there is the G10 version. So the aluminum, what we have here, there are 3 colors. You have the dark blue here. There's kind of like a seafoamy green. It's kind of like a really light green color with stonewash blade, and then there is that black and copper dune that's super popular right now. That one, of course, is sold out. The others are still available at time of filming. Hopefully they will be available still when you watch this. But the S35 VN variants are $150 direct from the Vosteed website. I'll have that linked below. The G10 versions are G10 and N690 steel. Those weigh 3 1/2 ounces, so a little heavier on the G10 versions. I'm guessing because there has to be more steel on the inside. Those are $89 for what you're for those versions. And then on there are 2 G10 versions. There's a blue G10 with a satin. Well, they say it's a stonewash blade, but on the picture it's satin. So I don't know it. Hopefully you like either. I'm not sure which it is, but on the picture it's 100% a satin blade in the picture. And then they have a white G10 with a black wash blade like what we have here. Again, really cool, super fidgety. Really have no issues with it. Just like with the standard Corgi V, the first one that we got, it does take a little bit of break-in, so I'm not, the action isn't 1,000% as good as it should be right out of the box, or as good as it could be right out of the box. But I do know that just from having the standard Corgi V that my wife has stolen, which is the reason why I got this one, that it will break in and it will get really good over time. So I have no issues with that whatsoever. I'm used to having to break in a knife to really get that action dialed in, and I actually kind of prefer that, to be honest with you. I don't want it to be sloppy over time. So, all right, let's go ahead and jump into our close-ups of this knife. Then we'll go into our comparisons and all of our checks and everything. So there you have that Vanchor lock signature pivot there, and then we have a milled aluminum. I love this dark blue. It's kind of blurple looking color. Really nice there. Again, no screws on the show side whatsoever. We flip it over here. We do have a single standoff here at the bottom. So the way that works is there is a screw right there that holds that standoff to the show side, and then the pocket clip holds this side onto the standoff, and then everything bolts in that way. And then over here on this side you have the pivot, the actual pivot screw. So a lot of folks kind of have issues with their action or anything like that, if they've disassembled these knives or anything like that, the one thing I always tell people is to remember, these are your pivot screws. Treat these like you would your actual pivot. So you don't want to crank these down to where they're super tight, because that will lock up the knife. It will slow down the action of the knife considerably. So you do have to tune these a little bit if you do take the knife apart. So just remember that. I've never had an issue with them backing out or anything with any of my knives. Anything can happen and anything will happen. But as far as I am concerned, I've had everything from the first generation Ankelo all the way through. I've had every Vanchor lock model that they've released. I've had them for up until the last week or so, which is when I've kind of went through the collection quite extensively. But I've never had an issue with any of my screws or anything backing out. So just take that as you will. Inset pocket clip, inset screws, great job there. Standard Vosteed pocket clip. Their pocket clips are always really nice. I do love the Vosteed logo there on the clip. And that is some of the only branding on the knife. You've just got real nice small lettering there of Vosteed. And then on the other side, S35VN. Real simple lettering, real nice lettering. Nothing, outlandish or anything like that. Can't really check out lockup. I guess we do need to look at centering. Of course, it is perfectly centered. I wouldn't expect anything less from Vosteed. So standard Corgi drop point blade here. We do have a swedge, but there you can see a little something different that we're not used to with the Corgi, which is having some nice jimping out there all the way out on the edge of the blade. I do like seeing that. That is definitely a welcome sight. And then taking a look here, looks like our plunge grind is pretty doggone good. It does end about right there. I thought it was really good because it looked like it ended here, and then as you rotate a little bit, you can kind of see that it just slopes out. So it does slope out to right there. You can see that, but the initial plunge grind is actually pretty doggone good. But we do have a decent sharpening choil, so no issues there. And sharpening itself looks to be spot on. Let's check that tip. Dang, the tip looks good too. Come on, focus. Focus. Come on, focus camera. Yeah, that tip is good. I don't see any issues with that tip at all. There we go. Yeah, tip is good. So no problems there. Initial sharpness, it's Vosteed. I've never had an issue with any of their knives out of the box. So really no issues there. But look at that jimping. Such good jimping all the way out here for those pinch points. Really great job on that. So really impressed with that. It's good to see Vosteed taking some direction from their consumer base and putting that into work. And that's something Vosteed's always been really good at, is listening to their customers and making changes. Now, a lot of folks have unreal expectations and expect changes to happen overnight. However, anyone that is in any kind of manufacturing knows changes cannot and will not happen overnight, especially for a company like Vosteed. Even though folks think they are a large company, they are actually very, very small in comparison to a lot of the other knife companies. So their manufacturing capabilities are ever growing. So UA and those guys are always doing what they can. So again, we have that jimping that's way out here. Really nice job on that jimping. So when you come in here for your pinch grip, you can get up on that. You have that jimping there. I run on these Vanchor locks. Of course, it's a pivot lock, so I'm not trying to push on the pivot. So I either come right underneath the pivot and have that for that, or I'll come back here behind the pivot, and that's where I'll rest my thumb. It just takes some getting used to, a little bit of learning curve. Thankfully, they've not wanted to try to put a secondary lock or anything like that on these things. I think that is just unnecessary complications. Just don't hit the button. It's just that it honestly is just that simple. Where to begin with this knife? It's a Corgi. It's as refined a Corgi as we've seen yet. And it really excites me. I do really, really like this knife. As we looked at it previously with the standard Corgi, the standard Corgi V, I guess you could call that a Corvi, couldn't you? We are looking at just a slightly larger overall length here. So there is a good comparison between the two. So if you have the original Corgi V and you love it, but you were just like me and you kind of wanted something a little bit larger, and or your significant other stole yours, or both like me, I am definitely both. I did want something a little bit larger on the original Corgi V, and then my wife just absolutely fell in love with this knife. So yeah, they made one for me, which is pretty cool. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into our size comparisons just so you guys can check these out. So there we have the Corgi V first and second generations, and then we'll go ahead and bring in a new size comparison, one that we haven't seen before, which is the original Corgi. And as you can see, like I said, if you were a fan of the original Corgi, you will like the Corgi V295 because it is quite literally, well, not the exact same size, but pretty stinking close, if not the exact same size. I mean, it may just be that I don't have them lined up quite properly because it's kind of hard pivot to pivot when you have such a large pivot there. But, they are pretty doggone close to being the same size. But one thing that I've really liked about the Corgi Vs in general is because they are a little bit thicker, you have a wider blade profile, which gives you a better grind profile, in my opinion, and a slicier blade. So I have really been enjoying the knife in my little bit of time with it. Let's go ahead and jump into a few other size comparisons here. So we have the Militaw, which is of course going to dwarf the Corgi V. We'll try to get those lined up as best I can. And then the Pyrite, which is going to be very similar in size. It's not much smaller, I mean not much larger, so very similar in size there. Maybe just a little bit longer on the handle size there. And we'll go ahead and jump in with the Malibu, which again is going to be larger. Just ever so slightly larger. Bel Air, which is going to be pretty close, but not quite. Actually, no, if we line them up right, they are pretty good. Again, it's kind of hard to line up pivot to pivot when you have a Vanchor lock system, but lining them up pretty good. They're, butt to butt, I guess you can say. They are pretty comparable. And then last but not least, of course, again, the Big Daddy, the PM2, which is, of course, larger all around. So hopefully these comparisons are working for you folks. Let's go ahead and jump into the screws here. So we are looking at T6s all the way around just because we don't have a traditional pivot system. And no issues there. Those screws all work out really well. So ergonomically, it's the Corgi. So if you, like I said, if you like the original Corgi, you just want something that's a little more contoured, a little more chamfered, a little rounder in general, then this is definitely going to work for you. I have no issues with the handle feel at all. The milling on the handle does actually provide some traction, and we do have milling on both sides, which I think is cool. They kind of mirror each other a little bit. This is definitely a smaller pattern here on this side, but it doesn't have to be symmetrical. It just has to kind of, as long as it has milling on both sides, I'm happy with it. So the fact that both sides have that milling it's good for me. Action, as you guys can see, is phenomenal, and it's just going to get better. Now, if you want one that is going to have a really strong action, or really super smooth action right out of the box, get one of the satin or the stonewash versions. That's just with these, and it's something I've noticed with every single Vanchor lock knife, and it may be with every knife that has a coating on it, but I've definitely noticed it more with the Vanchor lock models, is that any knife that has a coating on the blade, it definitely needs some break-in before the action really smooths out. But the couple that I've handled that did not have a coating, they were substantially smoother right out of the box. So just keep that in mind. If you have to have a coated blade, in this instance for me, the colors with with a satin or stonewash blade just were not for me. I don't think the colors are right for me. So, in that case, you just go ahead and bite the bullet, get the coated blade, and just let it break in, or take it apart and put a hand satin on it, play with it, do whatever you want to do. It's your knife, but in my opinion, I think this is the best looking version. This or the Black Dunes one; those are my two favorite. But Yeah, anyway, guys, that's really all I've got for you on this knife. Again, fun knife, not super expensive. You can certainly get the budget version, and for $90, have a really capable knife. You can get the white G10 one and with the black wash blade and have fun with it. Do it whatever color you want. And honestly, you're not going to ever really notice in day-to-day use the difference between N690 and S35. So, that's there's a whole group of people that think that the blade steel is the end-all be-all thing, and from when most of us just use it to open up Amazon packages anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Anyway, I'm sorry, I go off on tangents from time to time, but y'all, I appreciate each and every one of you. As always, please remember to be kind, be humble, and be EDC. Y'all take care.